So many distortions, fuzzes, and overdrives in so little time. I know. Buying a distortion, a fuzz, or an overdrive is a really tough decision these days, given how many choices there are. So in this video, I'd like to give you a few tips for how to kind of winnow it down to find the perfect distortion, overdrive, or fuzz for you. Now, what I'm going to do is use some examples of pedals that I've either demoed or played here on the channel. These are not, I repeat, these are not the only good choices. These are just representative choices. What I'd like you to do, if you've already got distortions you love, go ahead and comment below. Let us know what they are and why you love them. Tip number one, and you knew this was coming, think about budget, right? It doesn't make sense to try and buy a $300 or $400 distortion pedal if your budget's only $100. So there are so many great choices in every price range. It's best to first decide on your price range. Let's move on to the next ones. All right, tip number two, I think, is to think about what kind of style or styles of music you like to play. Chances are there's a distortion, an overdrive, or a fuzz that is kind of a specialty or is really kind of focused at whatever you play. So let me give you an example. I've got a TC Electronic Tube Pilot here, and it's a tube overdrive, right? It's got a little tiny tube in it, and it's super simple. It's just got drive and level. There's no tone controls, no nothing. So what is this thing good for? It's not good for metal. I can tell you that. I'm not even a metal player, and I know it's no good for metal. But it's great if you've got a small, low wattage tube amp and you want to overdrive it and play some blues. This thing is really, really nice. Think about a distortion, an overdrive, or a fuzz pedal that matches the style of music that you do. Tip number three, think about what kind of tone controls you want or you need on your overdrive, distortion, or fuzz pedal. A good example of a very flexible pedal in this regard is the Strymon Riverside. So I'll just mention a couple things here about this pedal. It's got bass, mid, and treble controls, and they're really effective. I mean, you can drop the bass out like nobody's business. You can crank the mids if you wish. And it's even got a control to kind of change the overall structure of the mid-range. And that's really important to think about, and that's the mid-range. Are you more into a mid-range forward kind of tone or a scooped mid-tone? It makes all the difference in the world. So if you have a need for flexible tone controls, definitely look at the options on the pedal to see if they meet your tonal needs. Tip number four, and I'm going to use the Strymon Riverside just one more time if I may, and that is think about how closely you want your distortion or overdrive to sound like the tonality of your amplifier. In other words, do you want a distinct distortion sound that is different from the amp, or do you want it to complement the overdriven sound of your amplifier? The Strymon Riverside is one of many pedals, and I emphasize many different pedals can do this, but it just kind of sits there. It's pretty transparent. When you crank the overdrive, it really blends in nicely with natural amp distortion. So that's tip number four. Tip number five, decide if you want a distortion, an overdrive, or a fuzz, right? Those are kind of the three major classes of distorting pedals. And for this example, I've got the Electro Harmonics Cockfight, which is a fuzz pedal. And it's pretty cool. I've used it a few times. And it is not, however, an overdrive or distortion. And if you're looking for that more transparent kind of distortion tone, this pedal is going to leave you disappointed. But if you want classic fuzz tones a la the 1960s or 70s or whenever you listen to fuzzed out music, this type of pedal can get you in that direction. And again, there are many different types of fuzz pedals, right? I wish I had a fuzz face. That's the classic. But this is a good example. So select the type of distorting pedal that's right for your music, whether it's an overdrive, a distortion, or in this case, a fuzz pedal. Tip number 6, decide if you're trying to emulate one of your favorite guitarists. If you are, you should get a distortion or overdrive or fuzz pedal that gets you in the tonal direction of that particular guitarist. My example would be Allan Holdsworth. If you've been hanging out here, you know I'm a big fan of his. May he rest in peace. And I just happen to own a Rockett Allan Holdsworth signature model overdrive. And one of the great things about this pedal is if you get it set just right, man, you can get a tonality that's very much like a lot of the tones that Allan Holdsworth used to get. Now, my big problem is I can't play like Mr. Holdsworth did, but I'm really happy to know that I can get in the tonal range of his style of distortion if I wish to do so. So I think that's an important thing. If your music kind of revolves around emulating favorite guitarists, look for the types of gear that they used or use. Tip number 7, think about if you need a distortion or overdrive that has a lot of flexibility in the types of distortions and overdrives that it can do. And so for my example, I've got the Strymon Sunset, which is a really great device. And again, there are others that are flexible like this. This particular distortion pedal allows you to select 2 different distortion types at once and then run them in parallel or in series. So it's very flexible in terms of the tonalities you can get. It's got things like germanium, distortion types, Texas, treble booster, a 2-stage distortion, a hard edge distortion, and even a JFET style distortion. So again, this is not the only example, guys. There's lots out there, but if you have a need for being able to switch it up in the middle of a set and getting different types of distortion tones, look for something like this. Tip number 8. Here's a question for you to consider in this kind of tip or factor. Do you need ultimate flexibility? Are you looking for a way to save lots of presets and be able to switch back and forth? Do you want to upload and download different types of distortions and overdrives and fuzzes and all that good stuff? Well, if you do, you're going to want a pedal that supports that ultimate flexibility. My example for this video is the Source Audio LA Lady. It integrates in with Source Audio's Neuro app, and it allows you, which runs on your mobile device or on your computer, and it allows you to load, I think, well over 100 different types of distortions, overdrives, and fuzzes into this pedal. And then you can set up presets and switch back and forth. It's really, really flexible. And I got to be honest, I personally don't need this level of flexibility. I mean, I really like the pedal, but it's way more powerful than I need it to be. But that may not be the case for you. Perhaps you have an elaborate pedal board and you've got patches set up from song to song in a set list, and you really need to be able to switch back and forth. Something like this, and again, there are a lot of different options, might be the right choice for you. All right, like I said, drop a comment below. Let me know your favorite distortions, overdrives, and fuzzes and why you like them. And also, here's a playlist of all the videos that I featured on this video. Don't forget to subscribe. See y'all on the next video.